thank you so much for joining us. It's great to see you. Welcome to Southside Stories.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
We run a very interesting business, and it's a subject close to my heart, which is the world of design and design thinking. But in your own words, tell me a little bit about you, your company, and your job title.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Chris Aukett. I'm managing partner at The Big Picture. The Big Picture are essentially an insight agency, so market research, strategic thinking, and consultancy with a specialism for design, innovation, and brand strategy. So we don't do any of the design work, the creative stuff, but we provide the sort of consumer insight, the strategy, and the consultancy on that. And that ranges from, going into the homes of people in Beijing and understanding their laundry routines, right through to assessing the kind of potential of a launch of a new piece of drinks packaging or something like that.
Great stuff. And I think some viewers will be familiar with, say, IDEO and companies like that. Is that a similar field to you?
Yeah, not dissimilar. I mean, to put ourselves in the IDEO realm is it'd be great praise if we were talked about in the same breath, and that's almost one of my ambitions. Is like, as a legacy. But yeah, the real founders of design thinking, IDEO, and certainly a lot of those principles apply to what we do. In a nutshell, we fuse the ideas of behavioral science and behavioral theory with design thinking. Our vision, our mantra is to create a better designed world, and that really is through better understanding people and the challenges they have, the problems they want to solve, and how design, whether it be product, brand, packaging, can solve their problems or create desirability for them. It's an incredibly powerful tool, but marketeers don't always necessarily know how to use it or know the best way to research people who interact with it. So that's where we come in.
Great stuff. Yeah, sounds fascinating. So tell me a little bit about the company. How long have you been in operation for?
31 continuous years. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah, we
Yeah.
just headed into our fourth decade. So founded in 93 by John Cassidy and Mike Tivnan. John is still non-exec chairman of the business. And they really identified this opportunity to do better design research, and leverage all of the power of design, but not do it, not research it in quite such a rational or a kind of unrealistic way, and not sort of going about doing beauty parades of packaging or of brand design, but actually using strategic thinking to unpick the answer rather than directly asking your average buyer of cereal which one they like. It's not about that. That's not how we make decisions, and certainly, it's formed a brilliant opportunity for the business. Incredibly long-standing client base, primarily in the FMCG space, so the likes of Unilever, Suntory Global Spirits, PepsiCo, and those sorts of businesses. But also, some great brands like Samsung and people like that who we love to collaborate with as well.
Some really fantastic clients there. Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. It gets us an incredibly diverse sort of week to week topic set. They're brilliant in the way that we collaborate with them, and kind of they trust us. I guess we are a specialist research agency. You sort of have a generalist or a specialist in our industry, and we design and innovation and brand strategy. That's what we get out of bed for. So it narrows off certain briefs or certain opportunities, but it also means we really care about what we do, and we love what we do. I myself have a background in product design, so it's always been an interest, and I think the design nature of the business is what appealed to me 15 years ago, rather than necessarily just kind of wanting to do general research on people.
So if I'm a PepsiCo or a Suntory and I knock on your door and maybe I've got a new brand I'm launching or I want to revitalize a brand, tell me sort of the steps that you would take to start to explore the problem and come up with a solution, the design approach?
Yeah, lovely. Well, I mean, I guess it's not wildly dissimilar to many agencies taking briefs in different realms and different spheres, but the first and really critical piece is understanding and having a conversation with the client around their challenge or what they believe their challenge is, and then unpicking, is that the actual challenge or is there a brief behind the brief? Challenging that where necessary. I think with our expertise and our specialism, we've developed the sort of respect, I guess, within the industry to push and to challenge at times on that brief if we do believe, oh, there might be something bigger to get at, or there might be something in the periphery that could be key. But really understanding, often when it comes to brand or innovation, there's a desire for likability and appeal and things like this. But understanding the brand strategy that led the client to this place. What are the design objectives they might want to achieve with a rebrand, for example, or what's the opportunity they want to unlock with an innovation? And then we essentially go away, create a process, design a process for them, often a pitch. So we'll be up against other agencies. Hopefully we win the pitch. And then go about the research approach, whether that's primary research, speaking to people. We're a qualitative and a quantitative agency, so could be scale, could be sort of a smaller scale, could be larger scale, and sometimes it's pure consultancy. 31 years of grey matter and experience can go quite a long way. So sometimes it's a bit more about our strategic perspective. But yeah, that's how it comes about, and then. We're very collaborative through the process, so the client's involved, getting involved in the research or the sessions, and shaping the story, making sure that narrative is kind of giving them confidence and allowing them to sell through the business. And a big part of what we do, we're in the world of visual storytelling when it's brands and strategy. So a big part of what we do is how that story and that narrative comes to life. So the output is really, really key for us. It's something we're very proud of, and we aim to distinguish ourselves against the competition. So delivering that in a compelling way, whether it's video output or a microsite or just a really story-led debrief presentation and that kind of thing.
And is most of your work, I mean, what is the spread of work in terms of packaging versus some other design output? What does that look like?
Yeah, really good question. I mean, I'd probably... Packaging is what we sort of formed our reputation on, but in recent years we've really kind of worked to diversify our offer and show our clients the breadth of design thinking based research that we can deliver, and it's been hugely successful. So I'd say now visual identity and packaging, if we encapsulate it within that umbrella term, is probably 40 to 50% of the work we do. So it's still kind of the lifeblood of the agency. A lot of quantitative pack testing through behavioral techniques and gamification. But then a lot of innovation work, a lot of brand strategy work based on brand, helping brands develop positionings. We've done some brilliant pieces in the semiotic space as well, so really exploring emerging visual codes around certain categories and helping brands understand that. And then a real great body of work around the product design space as well. So the physical ergonomics of how do people use the products that they're interacting with, and that can often feed into inclusive design or sustainable design. So yeah, that in a nutshell, 40 to 50% of the visual identity, structural and graphic packaging, and then the others are a strong kind of minority of the rest.
And did you say that, I mean, your specialism is, or your strength is the research, the testing, the positioning, but you would involve another creative design to actually produce the packaging or the stimulus or
Yes. That's absolutely right, Matt. Yeah. So we have an in-house creative manager who does an incredible job of creating early stage stimulus and provocation, but it's never going to be the finished product that launches on the shelf. There will always be the likes of a Design Bridge and Partners or a Bloom or a Brand Opus. You know, these design agencies who do the real sort of high end deliverable in terms of the creative work. And I think that's important as well for our clients to retain that objectivity. You know, like we're not marking our own homework. So we've got fantastic relationships with big design agencies, and that is in part because of the respect we give their work, the way that we speak their language. But also we tell them straight, but we give you know, if something's not working, if design work isn't landing, we tell them straight, but also give them clarity in terms of, well, this is why, or these are the comms that are off, or this is what we're communicating versus your brief. We're always going back to the design brief rather than just saying, oh yeah, but Dave in Slough didn't like it, so sorry, go away and try again. So it's just not the business we're in.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because that could be quite a delicate relationship, couldn't it? With the you're kind of not you're finding a way to get the best result for the client and the best result for the end consumer of that product,
That's it.
but being sympathetic, I guess, to their design process and what they're trying to achieve, and I guess sometimes diplomacy is required, right? When something comes back and it's really like you guys, you kind of really missed this, but finding the best way to express that.
100%, 100%. It is, and sometimes they're the most rewarding. It sounds rather kind of sadistic, but they're the most rewarding of kind of pieces of feedback or strategy to think about, because we always challenge ourselves not just to go back and say, yeah, you missed the mark, back to the drawing board. It's very much like, okay, how do we use this research to learn? Have we designed a process going in that not only tests sort of what we know, but explores and really utilizes every opportunity to give that strategic guidance as well as feeding back. So when we're delivering our story, say it is a bad news story, it's about, all right, well, where do we go from here? How do we pivot? What do we learn? And not go back to square one. But yeah, you may have missed the mark. But this is why. This is what we can understand. These are the codes going on. This is how people shop the category. Here's where we need to optimize. And you've obviously got to tread a very careful line of, you're not teaching them to suck eggs, or you're not doing their work for them and doing the design work for them. So it's a fine balance, but I think generally over the years we've got it pretty right. And you see that when creative agencies are bringing us into their pitch process and saying, look, if you want to do design research, if you've got a brand to redevelop, if you've got innovation to launch, if you've got a pack to redesign, these are the people to do the insight piece, because we're going to work as a triumvirate, a kind of three-piece of interested parties. And yeah, we're going to be sensitive to the work, but we're also going to say, look, our loyalty, we want to create this better design world. We need to have our integrity and make sure we give the debrief and close the laptop and say, or leave the room and say, yeah, we can say with conviction, that's a brilliant piece of design and that will launch, or we've affected change and yeah, they may have to go and do some more work, but it will be better in the end.
Yeah. Tell me a bit about the packaging design process, because packaging, and you've got some, I think examples behind you, but when it comes to, drinks packaging, the kinesthetics, the feel, the tactileness of that end design, how it feels when you take it off a supermarket shelf. This is all part of the brand persona, the buying experience. How do you get into testing for something like that?
Yeah, it's firstly, it's a really important thing to just acknowledge the power of packaging design, or the power of design more broadly. I think there is a bit of a tendency among certain clients or individuals to see packaging as the final vessel. It's all about your sort of size of your logo and can people see it. And really it's far more nuanced and far more powerful than that. And we know that brands that embrace design and design thinking succeed more than brands that don't. So when it comes to researching it and exploring it, there's a breadth of sort of techniques or ways that you do that, depending on whether you're very exploratory and early stage, making sure that you explore breadth of idea and stretching, because often from a client perspective, something's very revolutionary, and then you'll speak to get a consumer perspective, and it's a fair bit more, you've got more permission to move and not throw the baby out with the bathwater, but really stretching. And then a lot of techniques are around understanding emotions and what's unsaid, whether it's behavior, whether it's just that spark, that connection that design can achieve that is intangible, but you might be talking to someone about, some whiskey packaging or some gin packaging, and they're just they're rubbing their thumb over a piece of embossing, and you're like, okay, there's something going on there, and they're talking with emotion, they're leaning in, or they're energized, or vice versa. They may be sort of, saying, yeah, it's good, yeah, and completely, lacking in any sense of engagement. And I've talked about whiskey and held a gin pack there. It's not all about premium spirits. I think the wonderful thing is designing research and techniques that can unpick emotion in laundry, in snacking, in everyday. Design has power in everyday platforms, and often I'll ask you, well, Matt, why did you go and choose that for lunch today, or why did you go and choose that drink at the impulse fridge? Probably not going to be able to tell me, but design's going to have played a role, or the brand in question or something about it is going to have driven that decision, not just the rational pricing and do I know it, do I like the flavor?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think actually quite a lot of my buying decisions I'm quite conscious of design, pack design, how it looks, how it feels in my purchasing decisions, and I'm sure that applies to many, even if you don't always recognize it as a consumer. Tell me a little bit, Chris. What would be a great example of a bit of design that you've been a key part of that you're particularly proud of?
Yeah, I'll take your one example. I'll grab two if I can, but I'll be brief.
Sure.
The first is one that I talked at a behavioural science summit about last year, and I'm incredibly proud to have been involved with it, and the agency, The Big Picture, have been involved with Suntory Global Spirits over a number of years across a number of their brands. And one of these pieces, one of our first pieces with Suntory was we worked on a brand called Basil Hayden, spelt Basil, for those UK viewers, and it's this wonderful bourbon. I'm more of a Scotch or a Japanese whiskey man, but so I'm not a big fan of bourbon, but it's a great liquid. And they had this really interesting challenge. They essentially had a trademarked asset called a bib, which was essentially a label that sort of wrapped over the shoulders of the bottle, around the neck of the bottle, and over the front. No one else was allowed to. It was trademarked. No one else was allowed to use this production method. It was hand labeled as well, so you can imagine the cost. But they also had an ambition to progress the brand into this sort of look sophisticated space, this premium whiskey space, charge a price that warranted that, create new products off the back of it. And it was felt, well, is this label a real strength, or is it a ball and chain around our ankle? And really, it was kind of both, which was fascinating. So we did some implicit testing, we did some quant research, and so we did quantitative and qualitative research. And the story was not clear if you were to just look at the data, because at shelf, this bib label, the current label that they had, was disruptive. It was one of the most disruptive in the category. And I remember running some online interviews with people who bought the brand, and they said, yeah, we remember we were in a bar and we just saw this like strange kind of bottle up there and thought, oh, well, let's ask what that is and let's give it a try. So there was a bit of a case for, do you know what, like, be very careful here. And we respect distinctive assets, but we also had some great design work for future opportunities from Design Bridge and Partners, who had, respected the equity in other aspects of the bottle design, and actually really focused on another area, which is the belt that is wrapped around the bottle, which is beautiful. And they had fed into the rest of the design such richness and quality cues and desirability, that there was a real strong communication story there. So that bottle tested, it didn't stand out quite as immediately. It wasn't quite as disruptive. And it was obviously eschewing something that was ownable for the brand in the bib. But we told the story. We said, look, guys, yes, there is risk involved in terms of immediacy of recognition, but the potential there to build a brand that is so desirable, that is so, you see it on your friend's bar, or you see it in the store and you're like, oh, what is that? I want to pick it up. I want to feel it. What's that belt around the middle? Oh, the quality, the craft. It just had that spark and that connection and that real rich brand storytelling piece. So we kind of did this brave, we made the brave step and said, yes, some of the numbers say, slow down in findability and things like that, but you've got a great opportunity. We recommend going with this. And they went through, speaking to the brand director, he said it was one of the most fearful he's been to enter a meeting with his boss and take to his boss, who's, on the senior leadership marketing level, to say, we should do this. And he still says to this day, it's one of the best decisions I didn't get to make, because he was so, naturally he was afraid of the risk to the brand, but the research sort of supported that confidence and gave him that confidence.
Right. That's a beautiful way of describing that. Yes. Because that's a huge, well, I was going to say gamble, but it's not. I mean, the point of what you do is it's actually not a gamble. It's a data-driven decision.
It's exactly that. It's allowing sort of confidence in bold decisions. And I think the wonderful thing about design and marketing is that you can really create emotion. You can create something incredibly distinctive with brands. And often our clients might look at other brands and think, wow, they've done this, or look at this challenger brand doing that. It's incredible. And it takes a leap of faith often. It's not an ill-informed, it's not a completely kamikaze decision, but it does require some bravery. And we live in a world that requires a lot of numerical support or that sort of thing. So it's about overlaying the strategy, understanding what do you want to achieve. If you want to do that, you're going to have to not dance on a pinhead and nudge this Pantone color on one fraction. But we provide the clients with that confidence in being brave, or confidence to take a big step.
That's a great case study. Were you going to mention another one? You think you had two?
I was. It's in the room with me. This guy here. I'm talking a lot about whiskey, which is a slightly concerning pattern, but they are some of the most interesting. Alcohol projects are some of the most interesting ones that we do. So I don't think we have the relic that was the old one. So this is Ballantine's Finest, one of the biggest blended scotches in Europe in particular. And that is how it is now. It's got this fantastic sort of chevron, quite distinctive label shape, big in France, big in Spain. This was work for Pernod Ricard or Chivas Brothers. And this goes back to probably the earlier years of my career. And one of the ones that I'm proudest to have the big picture to have been involved with. Essentially, they had a very classical, very traditional whiskey bottle. This, now looking at this, is completely revolutionary. I mean, it's retained some of the assets, the cursive font, for example, which we did some sort of early stage foundational learning on what makes Ballantine's. It was this brick-like bottle. It was the cursive font, and actually this sort of hotspot of a kind of stamp. But this was a revolutionary change, and we went into early stage exploratory research, and it was the most stretching design, even taken into just early pack set research. But we saw the potential of it. People were drawing it in memory drawings and things like this, and it was like the brands that, again, coming back to what was the brand strategy, the brand was all about leave an impression. And the old pack was very classical, very traditional in its stylistic kind of language. And this just had that potential. It was rough. It required a fair bit of finessing with the team at Air Innovation who did the design work on it. But it had that potential, and really from there we were able to guide them through a couple of stages of research and launch what is now still in market as is, which again is a nice sign, is an enduring sign of good design. Is it hasn't been redesigned every 2 years, hopefully because of the good insight that was behind it.
And how does it show up in retail sales? Can you see? Is it too subtle to show up in sales, or the ROI on design changes? How does that look?
It's not always. The challenge with ROI within design is sometimes that there's other factors going on. It will be supported by a big campaign, or the
Yeah.
market trends going on in X market may influence when the design lands and what it does. But you often see it with the innovation that we develop, and the innovation work that materializes through design. You can see how incrementally that's grown a category. We've just done a big launch with Unilever in the laundry space that has just been a great success, and you see the value it's added to the brand and the success and the uptake. So that's a great way of measuring ROI. But yeah, also with the likes of graphic design or structural design change to packaging, sometimes it isn't one that's hugely supported, and the pack design has to deliver a decent amount of the communication and the change in fortunes. And sometimes it is as simple as Basil Hayden, for example. It sort of achieved double-digit brand growth after that launch. So a great example of ROI on design. And there's a sort of institution called the DBA, the Design Business Association, that do fantastic work on proving ROI of design and really championing what design can do for brands.
Great. Let's switch to sort of a broader topic, away from the fantastic work that you've been doing, that you've just shown. Trends in design, any design. I'm interested in two aspects, really. One is sustainability. How does that sort of show up now in terms of client briefs and the way in you work and the final outputs as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, firstly, sustainability is a massive passion of mine, and the big picture as an agency. It's one we're sort of working internally to address and to do everything we can. But obviously for our clients, it's huge, and it's a big part of the agenda. It's become less of a distinct brief that we're receiving now. So it's less like we have this sustainability brief. Can you research this? It's a bit more interwoven into each of the briefs, or it's kind of just gone straight to supply chain. It's like, how do we lightweight this bottle, or how do we reduce material usage, or that kind of thing. I do have concerns, given it's such a passion area, that the multitude of global sort of pressures, supply chain, cost of living is diluting somewhat the importance for certain businesses. Shareholder pressures and things like this. There is a degree of, if it can achieve cost saving to not maybe be quite so strident in the sustainability space, that is a concern of mine. But the good news is there's appetite for it. I just think consumers or the everyday public can't be the people that the blame is put on or the reliance is placed upon with sustainability. So it needs government schemes. It needs sort of policy to really drive it. And almost force change in packaging design briefs and things like this. I know Diageo, for example, are doing some great work, a lot of great work in the sustainability space to actually drive the agenda. That's a positive sign. If you get the leaders in the market uptaking and driving change, then others will follow.
Yeah. And then design more broadly, design trends come and go, colors come in and out of fashion.
Yes.
What have you seen recently that's been a major trend that may be on its way out, or what do you think might happen as an emerging trend, perhaps in 2025?
Lovely, like this. So there's a lot of subverting of kind of classical or traditional codes going on, driven by startups or challenger brands. But I think some of the codes around the naturalness space are really interesting in the way that brands like Surreal Cereal or those brands who are really challenging what it is to be natural. If your product is genuinely natural and you don't need to, shall we say, pull the wool over the eyes or dress it up as a very natural feeling product, but what you can do with visual codes, if your back of pack copy and your traffic lights support that you can be really bold, really cartoon-like, or really almost, really sort of transformational in the way you say that you're healthy and very disruptive.
When you say codes, by the way, is that visual cues? Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Visual codes, semiotic
Yeah.
codes that we tend to talk about in terms of residual codes, dominant or emergent. So dominant codes would be your or even residual codes would be your kind of classic kind of chalkboard or your wood or your Hessian sack kind of thing, which are very established in the minds of people, but very residual. So in one way, fine. In autopilot, you sort of get that it's natural, but there are more emergent codes kind of coming through and breaking through. And then I think another trend, actually we're about to launch a piece of trends thinking that our team have been doing. So it's one that we're going to be sharing out with clients as well. But another one is around structural design, and you talked about texture and feel and haptics, like, the greater attention to detail within structural design to build in kind of almost. Last year, a big trend was sort of ribbing of packs, where it's the vertical sort of indentations that enhance stature and almost Art Deco feel. I think the Campari bottle, which launched a couple of years ago, was a great driver of that, but lots of evidence of that. So yeah, textural elements, certainly another theme we're seeing.
AI. We cannot have a conversation without talking about AI.
Absolutely not.
We see AI images now popping up everywhere in our social feeds, and text to video and design and photography. I mean, not all of it is good. In fact, a lot of it is bad, but it does sort of have this, it's sort of synthetic sort of feel to some of it. How much influence do you think AI might have on design? Could it come up with design concepts? I mean, the language models are based on human learning experience, but do you think they'll come up with new directions in design, for example?
Yeah, it's a really hot topic in the design world at the moment, and I think I guess the first thing to say is there is currently no replacement for human ingenuity and creativity. The thing, as you say, with AI is that at the moment it's sourcing from what exists. And typically you're going to prompt it, or there are some established codes that you might want to deliver with your design. And therefore you're going to say, I want a natural, modern cereal brand. Can you create me 5 different routes? It's going to source from what's out there and work on the sort of the mass. So what you're not going to necessarily get is something that's especially future-proofed or especially disruptive or really ingenious or new thinking. So I think there are some applications for it, shall we say, and there are ways currently to use it, early stage maybe to provoke, but I think when you look at great design, it's unique, it's differentiated, it's created on a human insight, or it's created on just an individual's creativity. It's kind of, and this is a moment in time, right? So this is early 2025. I think the big thing with AI is not assuming anything and just addressing it in the now, because it's generative. It's gonna grow. It's gonna evolve. It's gonna get smarter. But yeah, I think the space for creativity and design and human creativity will be there for a while.
Yeah. Okay. Fascinating. So let's switch topic again to your role, because you have stepped up recently into the CEO position. Chris, tell us
the managing partner position.
managing partner into the hot seat. How has that been? for you?
Yeah, fantastic. So myself and Laura, my fellow managing partner,
Mm,
we bought the business towards the end of last year.
mm,
John Cassidy was our former chairman, now non-exec chairman. And Laura and I were in the managing director role as joint managing directors for 2 years prior to that, which I think was really important and great, both for kind of the building of our relationship as partners into ownership, and also really great in terms of that leap to ownership not feeling quite so significant. So I'd like to think I've acted with integrity throughout my career, but in particular, when you're managing director of a business, you act with integrity, with the financial interest of the business at its very heart, and the future security and growth of the business at its heart. So then the step to managing partners and owners is the natural progression. So it's been brilliant. We're now almost 6 months in, and we've had a good start to our year. So
good.
that's always a positive and makes life
Yeah.
a little easier.
Uh-huh.
And so yeah.
Where do you want to take it? What's your ambition for the agency now?
Well, the first thing, I guess, is that we've got an incredible foundation, which is a credit to every single person who's worked here over the 31 years. We've got a great reputation in the industry. I mentioned earlier I come from a product design background. I would love for us to be doing even more work in the product design space, and that's something we're going to be leading with this year in terms of new thinking, and driving that. Further diversification of people's understanding of design research and design thinking. So, more of that innovation work, that semiotics work, and that kind of area is really important to us. But also just growing that stature and that authority. We're respected kind of around the world for our design research and our core partnership and strategic perspective with our clients. So for me, it's more of that, and amplifying that as well, and being more ever present with our clients to help them with design strategy, and that kind of thing with an insight lens.
Great. Love the ambition. With the step up into ownership comes a lot of responsibility as well. What sort of keeps you up at night? What are the main challenges, do you think, in the year or two ahead?
Well, my 1-year-old son is probably the main thing keeping me up
Yeah.
through the night at the moment. Hello, Avery. Look forward to seeing you later. But I think proving added value is not necessarily something that keeps me up at night, but something that keeps driving me and us forward. We are a strategic agency. We are, I guess, if you think about the industry, it's getting quite polar in some respects. There's a drive to agile DIY tools, and things like this, which absolutely has a place and allows clients to be far more research literate in some ways, or have more research at their fingertips. And then there's the other end, which is the strategic consultancy and agency model that we very much embody and look to deliver. So with that comes the challenge of every month, every quarter, proving to our clients where the added value lies and why we truly are worth partnering with and investing in, and building that relationship with. So it's providing provocation regularly to our clients in terms of what we're seeing going on in the world, maintaining our integrity when things don't go well, and saying, look, it might be hard to hear, but we're not yet a yes agency, and we're going to save you thousands or millions of pounds in the long run. So yeah, integrity and strategic partnership kind of. So yeah, really that added value piece
Yeah.
is one. I guess the other one is how we embrace AI. We're very much embracing it, but doing so in a way that is true to our positioning and our strategy. So it's not about jumping at every trend or jumping onto every product or delivering everything that maybe undermines our principles, but very much looking at ways that it can enhance our thinking and enhance our human thinking and our design thinking, rather than sort of diluting or undermining it.
Great. And then moving to sort of the conclusion of our conversation, let's finish on two things. Just tell me a little bit about team and culture. Often agencies talk to me about how difficult it is to find people, retention of talent. How does that look like for you?
It's a really good question to ask, and it's an ever evolving answer, I guess. That I think we're in a fortunate position in some respects, in that we are a specialist. So our recruitment revolves around the potential of individuals. We have people that come from a vast amount of different backgrounds. We've obviously talked a lot about design, but we're not all failed designers like me. There's anthropology, there's all sorts, there's marketing, there's advertising backgrounds and planning backgrounds. But there is this collective passion, interest, and belief in the power of design. So I think that gives us and our people a sense of identity and a sense of what we're up to. So that does help with retention. I'm incredibly blessed to have an amazing team around me. I walk through the office and I see Tess, who's been here for over a decade, and others who've been here, Cecilia, who's been here knocking on 15 years. And she's one of the most innovative, inspiring people I've ever met. So it's not like she's kind of been sat there and gathering dust. She's a thinker, she's a brilliant brain. But, these people have this attachment to our identity, and that has kept them here, kept them interested. And then with hiring and recruitment, it's about it's about sort of identifying that genuine interest in what we do, because likelihood is, if they're interested in what we do, there's not a load of agencies out there that do what we do. So the topic of your work, your day-to-day work, I believe should be something you're passionate about or interested in. And then you have incredible people join, like Eileen, Jan, Grace, some of our recent recruits, Brendan even, who's just recently joined. You just see their day-to-day, their interest. They want to talk about it. The Slack conversations light up. There's dialogue with people because they care. And then you build an agency that I guess people want to be at as well. We're in the office a couple of days a week, sometimes 3 days a week. Build an inclusive culture, try and evolve with DE&I in mind all the time. Try to be a place that people want to be. Have a no dickheads rule. Sorry for swearing, but just employ good people, nice people that kind of want to do the work that you do. It's a bit cheesy, but
not at all. No, it sounds like a great place to work. Fantastic. Hey, so Chris, we're at the end of time, really. That's gone really quickly. Thank you for this.
Sorry, you speak to a researcher. I will just wrap it on. Apologies.
It's all good stuff. Last question. Tell us about a leader that's been very influential on you. It could be a designer, it could be nothing to do with design, but somebody that's sort of influenced you, perhaps your profession or the way that you work.
Yeah. I think for me, I've been at the Big Picture 15 years and worked alongside some amazing and fantastic people. John Cassidy for me stands out as the leader and the person who I've taken most inspiration from. A bit of an obvious one, but he was kind of co-founder of the Big Picture. And I just learned an incredible amount from John. He's a brilliant mix of sort of passion and integrity, but also someone who is just a great laugh to work with. He'll come in on a Monday morning and bemoan, or recently celebrate Newcastle United's results, and have a chat to you as soon as he'll chat to you sooner about that than the proposal that you're writing on X or Y brand. But yeah, I think that leadership that he's exhibited over the years he just exemplifies a passion for what you do and an integrity to always be proud of what you do. He once said, you can sell your integrity, but only once, and that stuck with me. And John has formed a wonderful agency here, and Laura and I are hoping to take it to the next level and to grow it and to realize its new iteration, but very much inspired by his leadership.
Fantastic. Well, that's a great way to finish, Chris. Every success for 2025, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.